Hey everyone, and welcome to my review of the 2021 Hungarian Grand Prix. Not exactly an eventful Grand Prix, was it? It's not a track where normally, in normal circumstances, that you would see a lot of overtaking, but we saw plenty of that in this year's race, and what a fantastic race! One of the best races of not only this year, but one that I can remember for so long. So yeah, cracking Grand Prix, a top three of Esteban Ocon, Lewis Hamilton, and Carlos Sainz. Sebastian Vettel did finish second, just behind Ocon, but we'll come on to talk about Sebastian as to why he was disqualified from the race. But yeah, your top three of Esteban Ocon, Lewis Hamilton, and Carlos Sainz. Well, what an incredible win for Esteban Ocon, his first ever win in Formula One, and a win, you could say has happened to one of the nicest guys in Formula One, and a well-deserved win as well. I don't think he would have had a lot of money. Well, I can imagine not a lot of money would have been put on Ocon to win the race in Hungary. But you now seeing the multiple incidents that we saw on the opening lap of the race. Ocon was one of those drivers who was able to avoid it and really take advantage. And once he was then after the restart anyway, once he then took the lead. Really, I must say, Esteban, he didn't flinch. He didn't flinch under pressure. He was under a lot of pressure by four-time world champion Sebastian Vettel, but he didn't put a foot wrong. He didn't make a mistake, and you can only praise Esteban for the job that he did. He led out at the front, and he looked comfortable. He definitely looked like um, he earned the right to be there and made it look easy. But yeah, I'm really happy for Esteban because he's not had it easy in Formula One. Obviously, you look at when he was at Force India, obviously replaced by Lance Stroll, due to obviously obvious reasons, which then meant that Esteban had to take a year out of Formula One, and that can't have been easy for him. But I thought last year when he was driving for then Renault, thought he did a good job alongside Daniel Ricciardo, and even this year, I think that he's had a decent season. Up until he signed that new contract just before the French Grand Prix, he was putting in solid performances, scoring points regularly, and I do question people and say that Ocon's had a duff season up until like Silverstone, because actually I disagree with that. I think he's had a decent year, and it's only really those three difficult Grand Prix, where in France, and those two, that double header in Austria, where Ocon has struggled. But having that chassis change for Silverstone, I think has been a real benefit for Esteban. He normally goes around well around Silverstone anyway, so more points are picked up there, and obviously a fantastic race win at Hungaroring. So I'm really happy for Esteban Ocon, and I couldn't be more proud and happy for Esteban. But I guess a big part of Esteban being able to win that race was because of Fernando Alonso being able to keep charging Lewis Hamilton behind him for at least I think it was 10 laps. But yeah, fantastic drive from Alonso. He's definitely hasn't lost it, that's for sure. And we saw plenty of his fighting and battling spirit in his battle against Lewis, and he's not, as we know, he's definitely not afraid to get his arms out and battle on track. And there were times where Lewis did question whether Fernando was pushing the limit too much, but actually, from the camera angles that I could see, I think Fernando played it fair, hard but fair, and yeah, a great drive from Fernando Alonso. And after a slow start this year, Fernando definitely he's getting more comfortable in that Alpine car, and I think Alpine are definitely making progress this year. I don't think, I don't think they would have expected to challenge for the win or, be, yeah, as I say, I don't think they would have expected to challenge for a race win, but here we are. And they've done that. They've picked up that race win. Esteban's first ever win in Formula One, and you know what? It's a feel good story for Formula One, isn't it? Seeing a new driver win their first ever Grand Prix. It's great news for Formula One, and I'm not going to lie. When Esteban did cross that line, I almost had a tear in my eye because I was really happy for Esteban for him to win his first ever Grand Prix in Formula One, and hopefully, fingers crossed, the first of many for the young Frenchman. But yeah, cracking day for Alpine, and yeah, many congratulations to Esteban on winning his first ever Grand Prix in Formula One. So we come on to Sebastian Vettel, and what a fantastic drive from Sebastian. He got off to a poor start on Sunday, but in a way, with hindsight, actually, it wasn't a bad thing because he was able to avoid the melee on the opening at turn one at the opening corner, and like Ocon, he was able to get by, and yeah, he was able then to definitely give Ocon honest throughout the race. He had one or two opportunities that he wasn't quite able to capitalise on in terms of trying to get past Ocon. I can't remember I can't remember if it was Kimi Raikkonen or Antonio Giovinazzi coming out of the pits, where Vettel just tried to make that dive inside Ocon, but it didn't quite pull off. But it was a really good drive from Sebastian. But then the next thing you know, heartbreak in the fact that the officials weren't able to take the mandatory 1 litre oil from his car at the end of the race, which meant that Sebastian had to be disqualified. And as heartbreaking as it is, it's rules are the rules. Whether you agree with them or not. Yeah, it's a real shame that Sebastian was disqualified. But what he can take is to take a lot of positives from the way that he and the team performed. And getting into Q3 as well. Again, another real positive for Sebastian as well in the Aston Martin. And yeah, just I think the only frustration with Sebastian will be the fact that he wasn't able to, as I say, capitalize on those opportunities that he had to get by Ocon because on basis of it, from lap times that we saw, Sebastian was the quicker car. But as we know, around Hungarian, it is difficult to overtake, although we did see plenty of overtaking. But even so, Sebastian, despite disqualification, he can take a lot of positives from the weekend. On the other half of the Aston Martin team, uh, difficult. Yeah, not the best of races for Lance Stroll. Ended on lap one. More or less going for a gap that wasn't there. Going for a gap that was always closing. I don't know if he was trying to. I don't know if he was trying to avoid the incident and the fact that Charles was quite tight to the corner, but Lance unfortunately wasn't able to avoid him, and that resulted in Charles then having to retire from the race, and then also Daniel Ricciardo ended up spun round, and then not really been able to recover from that. But yeah, difficult race for Lance, and yeah, so not the well, I say not the best weekend for Aston Martin. Difficult weekend for Lance. Heartbreak for Sebastian Vettel, but still plenty of positives that they can take. And to be fair, they're going to a track next, Spa, which will be at the end of August. A track where they normally go well round. So perhaps we might see Aston Martin closer to challenging for a podium. And we know what the weather's like in Belgium. So perhaps we might see Aston Martin right up there and don't count out both Sebastian and Lance picking up strong results at Spa. Um, but yeah, so coming on to Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton, well, did a fantastic lap to put the car on pole. on Saturday, and then on race day, got off to the best possible start with everything happening behind him. But then obviously, with hindsight, him being the only one that started on the grid, whereas the other drivers that came into the pits, I think had Lewis come into the pits, then there's every chance that actually he might have ended up being closer to the back end of the grid. So either way, I think obviously he stayed on the grid, so he was the only car that start and then went ahead. Um, but had he come into the pits again, like I said, I think there's every chance that with Mercedes being at the top end of the pit lane, then basically, had he done that, then obviously he would have had to wait for the other cars to go and to let them by. So because of that, there's every chance that Lewis actually might have ended up at the back of the grid. So either way, Lewis had, he was in a difficult situation, but the way he was able to recover, you got to give him credit for that. And obviously, we saw that fantastic battle between himself and Fernando Alonso, and yeah, two world champions going head to head, and that was an unbelievable battle. Actually, one of the highlights of the race. Now, seeing them two go head to head, maybe maybe Alonso. Well, to be fair, Alonso, as I said earlier, now I think the way he was trying to defend from Lewis, I think it was hard, but I also think it was fair as well. I didn't see anything wrong with what Fernando was doing. I always thought that he did give enough space for Lewis. But yeah, coming back on to Lewis, I still think obviously with Max Verstappen finishing low down in the points and Lewis finishing in the end finishing second. I think he can class that as a good result, and he would happily take that. Obviously, we know him leading the drivers' championship going into the summer breaks. As for Valtteri Bottas, on Saturday he actually did a pretty good job, and obviously Mercedes locked out the front row. So in a way, Valtteri actually did his job on Saturday, but Sunday it came all the good work that he did on Saturday came undone on Sunday. Bogged down at the start, it appears, and wasn't able to recover from that. And then obviously he misjudged his braking. He then went into Lando. Lando then went into Max Verstappen, and then also Valtteri then hit Checo Perez, which then resulted in Checo having to retire, Lando having to retire as well, but also Max, although he was able to continue, had plenty of that, still had damage to his car, and yeah, wasn't able to really make the inroads that he would have liked to get closer to challenging for at least for a top five finish. But with the five-place drop for Valtteri, is that lenient considering the number of drivers that had to retire and are affected by what Bottas did? Perhaps it is. Perhaps it is. Perhaps I'd go further and say giving him either a 10-place drop or even for him to start from the back of the grid at Spa. So I do think he's got away with it in terms of only a five-place grid drop for Belgium. But yeah, and the thing is that Valtteri, no, yeah, he has apologised, which is great, and also fact the fact that it's not like Valtteri, he wouldn't have done that intentionally. So it's just a shame that he just misjudged the braking, and then it led to cars going out left, right, centre. So yeah, just a horrible Sunday at the office for Valtteri, but I've got no doubts that he will bounce back. Although, having said that, I think we are expecting a decision over the summer break, or Belgium anyway, in terms of who will be alongside Lewis from Mercedes next season. We'll come on to talk about George Russell soon. But yeah, I believe we do expect a decision, so it'll be interesting to see what happens on that front. But like I say, difficult race for Valtteri. Ferrari, good performance from Carlos Sainz. Obviously, uncharacteristic mistake from him in qualifying, which meant that he started low down. But he was one of those drivers who was able to make his way through the field, able to avoid the opening lap carnage. And yeah, I think Carlos will just be a bit frustrated at the fact that, yes, in the end he finished on the podium, but in the first instance just missed out on a top three finish. But another solid drive from Carlos Sainz, another good drive from the Spaniard, and obviously Charles had to retire, having with Lance Stroll having gone into him. So yeah, nothing that Charles could have done about that. And yeah, frustration from his side, but I've got no doubts that he will bounce back in at Belgium. A really strong weekend for AlphaTauri. Pierre Gasly he really is on fire, isn't he? Fantastic lap in qualifying to put the car on in fifth. He actually, he was able to avoid the carnage. He did have to take a long way round, having seen Bottas go into Checo. So Gasly had to be pretty quick actually to avoid that, and he was able to do that. Unfortunately, he dropped down the field, but a good recovery from Gasly actually to finish sixth, and a fantastic drive from Yuki Tsunoda as well. Again, starting low down the field. Something he needs to work on is qualifying. I think he's struggled in qualifying this year, but the race itself, to be fair, I thought he did a very solid job, Yuki Tsunoda. Yes, there was that frustration that he did let out in terms of, once Gasly had gone in front of him, telling Gasly to hurry up. But I think that's another thing that Yuki just needs to work on. Just try and be more calmer, during the race, and just try to be calm on the radio as well. I know it's easier said than done. I know it's heat in the moment, but I think Yuki, that's just one thing that Yuki does need to work on. But overall, I have to say, good race from Sonoda, and yeah, very, very, very good weekend for AlphaTauri in the end as well. But I think one of the happiest teams at the coming end of the weekend will have been Williams. So great to see Williams back in the points. Nicholas Latifi, fantastic performance from the Canadian to finish eighth, and then George Russell scoring his first ever points in Formula One for Williams. And yeah, I said in previous race reviews and previews that I've done, in the fact that the points will come for Williams, and they've been showing signs of improvement in the fact that it would result in them scoring points, and they have. And I wouldn't be surprised if Williams, do score more points between now until the end of the season, and they are now eighth in the constructors. So both Nicholas and also George got off to really good starts on race day on Sunday, and yeah, really really good result for Williams for both drivers as well, and yeah, hopefully they can continue, they can build on the improvements that they're continuing to make, and going to Belgium next, that potentially that could be a track that really suits their car as well. So yeah, great to see Williams in the points. And yeah, many congratulations both Nicholas and George for finishing eighth and ninth in in the race. So sorry, seventh and yeah, eighth and I think it was no seventh and eighth in the end. Sorry, so seventh and eighth in the end. Williams finished in the end because Max Verstappen ended up finishing ninth. As I say, difficult weekend for Red Bull race anyway, and yeah, it looked all plain sailing. Well, not plain sailing, but it was looking good for Red Bull up until Silverstone. And then these last two races, it's just gone horribly wrong for Red Bull. But that's the beauty of sport. Anything can happen, and it just takes 1 second for something to happen, and it yeah, things change. So these last two races have been difficult for Red Bull, for both Max and also for Checo as well. But they will be just as motivated to bounce back in at Belgium, and yeah, don't be surprised if they were to come out victorious at Belgium. And then yeah, in the end, a valuable point for Alfa Romeo and Kimi Raikkonen to yeah, salvage a point for the team. Wasn't exactly the most straightforward of races for Alfa Romeo, but even so, having a point or scoring a point come the end of it, I think Alfa Romeo will happily take that. Although now that Williams are ahead of them in the constructors, they're going to have to yeah, they're really going to have to up their game if they want to reclaim that eighth place in the constructors. And a final. Just want to give a final shout out to Mick Schumacher as well at Haas. Look, we don't see much of the Haas drivers during the race, and you know, Haas obviously majority of the times they find themselves right at the rear of the field. But you know what? It was really good to see Mick actually involved in battles throughout the race on Sunday. Good to see him go up against Max Verstappen, also George Russell as well. And definitely, no, we definitely got to see Mick get his arms out and yeah, and take the fight to those drivers. And you know what, it was good to see. It's definitely a good drive from Mick. A lot of positives that he and Haas can take. No, I think the only frustration might be is that perhaps they would have liked to have been a bit more closer to the points. But as I say, I think Mick definitely showed a lot of battling abilities out there, and a lot of positives that he and the team can take as well. So yeah, really good race, one of the best races of the season in my opinion. And that is it now. And then we have a summer break now, and then the second half of the season will get underway in Belgium at the end of this month. So yeah, that's the end of my review. So looking forward to the Belgian Grand Prix at the end of the month. And if you want to talk things Formula One, you can do so by messaging me on Twitter at Baggies20, and I'm also on Instagram at Manish Patel89. Take care, everyone, and I will catch up with you all soon. See ya.